Is Orcust a problem in Yu-Gi-Oh? This is actually quite a complicated question. Whether you consider the pure deck to be fair or not, there is also the chance that you're using it as an engine. And that chance is substantial, as you probably can tell by a lot of the top cut at YCS Portland. So many combo decks were running Orcust in them, just because it is so powerful. So in today's video, we're going to discuss the Orcust cards and archetype as a pure deck, as an engine, and really dive into the question, is Orcust a problem in Yu-Gi-Oh? So first, I think we need to talk about the pure deck. So the pure deck, obviously, as most of you know, is a mid-range deck revolved around hand traps, playing a ton of them, along with following up with your end board of Crescendo, Galatea, Dingirsu, and Dingirsu will give you a follow-up with Symbol Skeleton, and Crescendo will give you a follow-up with Searching Harpor on your turn, or really any other dark machine you can think of. Now, that's not to say that the deck is broken or degenerate or anything, because realistically, if you're committing 2 cards to that play, and your opponent has an Ash Blossom, just as an example, on your Mermaid, then it doesn't really do much. So you need to also have cards that enable you to play through hand traps. But the idea is, if your combo resolves, you're gaining immense amounts of advantage, and again, that's not to say that it can't be competed with, that's just saying that you gain a lot of advantage, and it can be hard to overcome for some decks. So Orcust has the standard end board, that's fine. Usually you back it up with something like hand traps. So the idea is it plays similarly to Salamangreat, it's a grind fest, and in the end you're supposed to outgrind your opponent with an insane card like Dingirsu, Galatea constantly getting you more disruption, Longirsu getting rid of problem cards, and eventually beating your opponent with either by just through natural battle damage, or with a card like Boral Sword to make easy OTKs. So this is the going first version. However, at YCS Portland, we now discover that there is a going second version that is actually quite crazy. So Go Second Orcust is revolved around the idea that there are so many good cards that simplify the game state. So for example, there's a card like the new Tenyi Vishuda. Vishuda's really good because you can basically, it's a free special summon, you link into their link 1 Tenyi, and then you use that Vishuda in grave, banishing itself in order to bounce a card your opponent controls. You also have a card like Instant Fusion to get to Thousand Eyes, sucking up a monster. You have Mind Control to take your opponent's monsters. You have Shaddoll Fusion, which gets you insane advantage by itself. Realistically, there are a lot of good going second cards in the Orcust strategy. You revolve your deck around simplifying the game state while advancing your own game state through putting natural bodies on the field. So Go Second Orcust is really strong because of this. It doesn't even have to OTK because Galatea can just set a Crescendo and then they can play the longer game. So Go Second Orcust simplifies the game state, really freaking strong. It can clap a lot of decks really easily. So those are the 2 main variants of Orcust. Personally, I think Go Second Orcust is going to be the bigger variant for the future, just because it's so naturally powerful, and just the fact is, you have so many bombs in your deck that it's kind of hard for your deck not to just overwhelm your opponent through simplifying the game state with power cards. Why do these decks work? Well, it's because of Nightmare Mermaid. Nightmare Mermaid just requires any Nightmare monster in order to link summon for Nightmare Mermaid. Nightmare Mermaid gets you access to Orcust Nightmare, and then you get the entire Orcust combo from there. Nightmare Mermaid is the reason why this deck is so good. Here's the problem, however. Because every Nightmare is so highly generic, you don't need to play Orcust in just a pure Orcust deck. You can play Orcust in literally everything that puts 2 bodies with different names on the field. If I activate Engage and search Hornet Drones, I get Orcust combo, just as a purely rough example. So considering how generic that is and how insanely powerful that is, you're getting so much advantage through the easiest of methods. There's going to be some issues with other decks playing the Orcust engine. So for example, Danger Thunder is starting to adapt and take advantage of the Orcust engine. The thing is, right, Orcust Crescendo is just so good. And because you're ending on Orcust Crescendo and you're ending on Dingirsu to protect everything else, it makes the deck even better. You're getting a Dingirsu for free, you're getting a Crescendo for free with just any 2 monsters. If you have leftover monsters, you just make Orcust combo and you're putting out even more disruption for almost no cost. While monster negates are great and everything, that can't always stop everything. So a perfect example of this is the new card Dark Ruler No More that's coming out in the Megatins this week, which, by the way, if you want to buy any of these promos from the Megatins, any of the cards I mentioned, or just anything trading card game related, make sure to go down into the description and check out my TCG Player affiliate link. But getting back to the video, there are Megatin promos coming out. Dark Ruler No More is amazing, as long as your opponent doesn't have a Crescendo. But because every combo deck is playing the Orcust package because of Dark Ruler No More becomes substantially worse, just because it can be negated by Crescendo. So what is my point here? Crescendo is realistically the reason why Orcust is being splashed so much. If they just had Babel, that wouldn't be the same as having Crescendo, because Crescendo is just a hard negate. If the Orcust package didn't exist and Crescendo didn't exist, combo decks would be a lot weaker to Dark Ruler No More, because it's realistically hard to get counter traps in order to stop stuff like that. Obviously, Pendulum can search something like Zephyr Divine Strike, but realistically, if you're not playing Pendulum, you're gonna have a hard time dealing with Dark Ruler No More. So, because every deck can play the Orcust package, they now have an out, and because a deck like Danger Thunder is already playing Trishula, they most of the time out Super Poly, and because Dingirsu protects everything, they don't really have to worry about an Ogre on LP, for example. So realistically, what is my point here? My point is, Crescendo is insane because it's so highly accessible. Because of the targets you can access with Orcust Nightmare, it gets even better. So for example, you can play a variant that is revolved around actually using Orcust Nightmare for Gizmek Orochi instead of the Orcust package. And instead, you just use Galatea to get the Crescendo and you don't end on Dingirsu. Which that's fine too, because you're still ending on Crescendo, you just don't get the disruption, but you also get Gizmek Orochi. So if you want to go into rank 8 plays, you have that option as well, which also makes your deck really consistent. But speaking of consistency, there lies a problem with the Orcust package, and there are actually quite a few. So first off, Orcust is kind of inconsistent when it comes to playing the engine, just because you have to add a lot of filler cards. What I mean by filler cards are realistically bricks. You don't want to draw the Orcust cards, but depending on the route you take with your deck, you have to actually play more Orcust cards. So for example, if I played Heartpour, Symbol Skeleton, 2 Orcust Nightmare, and Crescendo, those are 5 cards you don't want to draw, and that's a lot of bricks to be adding to your deck, especially if you're already playing some regardless. A deck like Danger Thunder Dragon right now is playing so many bricks that regardless of only needing 2 Crusadias in order to combo, it can be pretty rough at times just because you're playing so many cards you don't want to draw. Like the Thunder Dragon pieces, the 2 Dark 1 Hawk, you don't necessarily want to draw any of your Orcust cards. There are a lot of cards you don't want to draw at all, which makes the deck more inconsistent in your starting hand. But the power of the Orcust package kind of overwhelms this factor, and if you resolve your combo, you're realistically in such an optimal position that you're probably just gonna win. So in the end, Orcust is really good. Is Orcust a problem? Honestly, it's more fair than you think because you're playing so many cards like the Orcust package, which is already inherently inconsistent when it comes to splashing it into another combo deck. Realistically though, it is just free value. It's highly generic. Do I think there needs to be a hit to Orcust? Yes, because it is so highly played. It is so highly splashed into every strategy. Because it is so highly splashed, I think the best ways to hit the Orcust engine is either through killing Mermaid by banning Mermaid, or honestly, you could ban Crescendo, because Crescendo is the main substantial reason why Orcusts are so good. Besides a going second package, Crescendo is that card you always want to end with. So if you remove the card that gives you the form of disruption, Orcusts are still playable, but they're not nearly as powerful. So in my opinion, I could see just Crescendo getting banned and it solving the problem of Orcust being so splashable. It would still be a good going second engine and could still be played going first, but it just isn't nearly as powerful. So In my opinion, Crescendo being banned would solve this problem. But anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this analysis today on the Orcust engine and if it should get hit. Personally, I think it should get hit. I don't think Mermaid needs to get banned, but I think Crescendo should probably get banned just because it is the most substantial card to get hit without killing the strategy, because it doesn't need to be killed. It just needs to be nerfed a bit so that way it's not so ridiculously powerful in other combo decks. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below with your thoughts on whether Orcusts are a problem and what should get hit if you think they are a problem. And with that, guys, I hope to see you soon.